Taylor Swift, a vision in claymation, strolled down the bustling city street. The city was alive with the hum of activity, the chatter of people, and the distant sound of street musicians playing their tunes. The sun was shining brightly, casting a warm glow on the buildings and streets. Taylor felt a sense of excitement and adventure as she walked, taking in the sights and sounds around her. The city was a place of endless possibilities, and she was ready to explore every corner of it. Her signature red lipstick curved into a smile. She greeted passers-by with a nod and a friendly wave, her presence lighting up the street. People recognized her and smiled back, some even stopping to take pictures or ask for autographs. Taylor was in her element, enjoying the connection with her fans and the energy of the city. Shop windows glittered, reflecting her joy. Each store seemed to have its own unique charm, from quaint little boutiques to grand department stores. Taylor peered into the windows, admiring the displays of fashion, art, and music. She felt a sense of wonder and inspiration, imagining the stories behind each item and the people who created them. This was a good day, the kind of day that made her feel alive and grateful for the simple pleasures in life. She took a deep breath, savoring the fresh air and the scent of blooming flowers from a nearby park. The city was a beautiful tapestry of sights, sounds, and smells, and Taylor was fully immersed in the experience. She paused, captivated by a vintage guitar on display. The instrument seemed to call out to her, its strings whispering melodies of the past. Taylor had always had a deep love for music, and this guitar was a piece of history that resonated with her soul. Its cherry red finish gleamed under the shop lights. The craftsmanship was exquisite, with intricate details that spoke of the care and passion of its maker. Taylor imagined the songs that had been played on it, the hands that had strummed its strings, and the emotions it had conveyed. A strum, she imagined, would sing. The guitar had a voice of its own, waiting to be brought to life by a musician's touch. Taylor could almost hear the notes, feel the rhythm, and see the audience swaying to the music. It was a beautiful vision that filled her with a sense of purpose and creativity. Lost in the melody, she didn't notice the figures across the street. They moved with a quiet intensity, their eyes fixed on her. Taylor was too absorbed in her daydream to sense the shift in the atmosphere, the subtle tension that was building around her. Their movements were subtle, blending into the crowd. They were like shadows, slipping through the throngs of people unnoticed. Each step they took brought them closer to their target, their intentions hidden behind calm facades. But their eyes, cold and calculating, were fixed on their target, Taylor. There was a determination in their gaze, a sense of purpose that was both chilling and relentless. They had a plan, and they were ready to execute it. They edged closer, their shadows stretching long and ominous in the afternoon sun. The chase was on. Taylor, still unaware of the danger, continued to enjoy her day, blissfully ignorant of the threat that loomed ever closer. The city, with all its beauty and charm, was about to become the backdrop for a thrilling pursuit. Unaware of the danger lurking, Taylor Swift walked through the city streets, her mind lost in the melodies of her latest song. The shadows in the alleys seemed to dance, but she paid them no mind. She was in her own world, a world filled with music and dreams. Taylor continued her carefree stroll, her steps light and her heart even lighter. She hummed a tune, her voice blending with the sounds of the city. The sun was shining, casting a warm glow on everything it touched. It was a perfect day, or so it seemed. The city buzzed around her, a symphony of car horns and chatter. People moved in every direction, each one with their own story, their own destination. Taylor loved the energy of the city, the way it never seemed to sleep. It was alive, just like her music. She stopped at a flower stall, enticed by the vibrant blooms. The colors were so vivid they almost seemed to sing. Roses, lilies, and sunflowers, each one more beautiful than the last. She reached out to touch a petal, feeling its softness under her fingertips. Roses, lilies, and sunflowers burst forth in a cacophony of color. The scent was intoxicating, a sweet perfume that filled the air. Taylor closed her eyes for a moment, letting the fragrance wash over her. It was a small escape from the hustle and bustle of the city. A hand brushed against hers, light as a feather. She opened her eyes, startled. It was such a gentle touch, almost like a whisper. She looked around, trying to see who it was, but the crowd was thick and everyone seemed to be in a hurry. She turned, thinking it was another customer caught in the bustle. But there was something about that touch, something that made her uneasy. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but it felt different, almost intentional. She scanned the faces around her but saw nothing out of the ordinary. But the street, in that instant, fell silent. The noise of the city seemed to fade away, replaced by an eerie stillness. It was as if time had stopped, and she was the only one left. The shadows in the alleys seemed to grow darker, more menacing. Her purse, once nestled comfortably by her side, was gone. Panic set in as she frantically searched her surroundings. How could this have happened? She had been so careful, so aware. But in that moment of distraction, someone had taken advantage. The shadows had claimed their prize. The world spun. Taylor's eyes widened, reflecting the shock that jolted through her. Her breath caught in her throat, a silent gasp trapped within. The crowd, oblivious to the silent theft, continued to flow around her. Their faces, a blur of indifference, heightened her isolation. She was alone. Then, slowly, the fog of disbelief lifted. Her eyes narrowed, a spark of determination igniting in their depths. She would not be a victim. She would fight back. Her heart pounded against her ribs, a frantic rhythm against the silence that engulfed her. Fear, cold and sharp, threatened to consume her. But even as the fear pulsed through her, a new sensation arose: anger, a slow burn that spread through her veins, melting the ice of shock. She clenched her fists, her claymation fingers digging into her palms. She would not let this break her. She would find her voice. She would reclaim what was taken. Taking a deep breath, Taylor pushed through the initial wave of fear. The bustling street, once a source of comfort, now felt hostile and vast. She needed help, someone to cut through the chaos. Her eyes scanned the crowd, searching for a friendly face, a beacon of hope. Finally, she spotted him. A kind-looking baker, his face dusted with flour, stood outside his shop. He was her anchor. With newfound determination, she pushed her way toward him, hope blooming in her chest. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice trembling slightly. The street was bustling with people, but no one seemed to notice her distress. She felt a wave of panic rising in her chest, her heart pounding like a drum. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "Please, someone help me!" she cried out again, louder this time. Her eyes darted around, searching for a friendly face in the crowd. The baker turned, his brow furrowed with concern as he saw her distress. He had been busy kneading dough, the smell of fresh bread wafting through the air, but her desperate plea caught his attention. He wiped his hands on his apron and stepped out from behind the counter. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice gentle but firm. He could see the fear in her eyes, and it tugged at his heartstrings. "I've been robbed!" she exclaimed, her voice gaining strength with each word. She clutched her handbag tightly, as if afraid it might be snatched away again. "They took everything! My wallet, my phone, I don't know what to do!" Her words came out in a rush, her emotions spilling over. She felt a tear slip down her cheek, but she quickly brushed it away, trying to stay strong. The baker's eyes widened in alarm as he ushered her into his shop. "Come inside," he said, holding the door open for her. The warmth of the bakery enveloped her, a stark contrast to the cold fear she felt inside. He led her to a small table in the corner, away from the prying eyes of the street. "Sit down," he said, pulling out a chair for her. "Let's figure this out together." She recounted the incident, the words tumbling out in a rush of adrenaline and fear. She told him how she had been walking home from work, her mind preoccupied with thoughts of the day. She hadn't noticed the figure following her until it was too late. "They came out of nowhere," she said, her voice shaking. "One minute I was alone, and the next, they were right there, demanding my things." The baker listened patiently, his calm presence a soothing balm on her frayed nerves. He nodded as she spoke, his eyes never leaving her face. "You're safe now," he said softly. "We'll figure this out." His words were like a lifeline, grounding her in the midst of her turmoil. She took a deep breath, feeling a small measure of relief. He offered her a glass of water and a comforting smile. "Drink this," he said, placing the glass in front of her. She took it with trembling hands, grateful for the small act of kindness. The water was cool and refreshing, and she felt a little bit of her strength returning. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "We'll get this sorted," he assured her, and for the first time since the incident, Taylor believed him. There was something about his confidence, his unwavering calm, that made her feel like everything would be okay. "We'll call the police," he said, "and we'll make sure they catch whoever did this." She nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope. For the first time, she felt like she wasn't alone in this. She had found a helping hand, and together they would face whatever came next.